your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting. Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting. Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting. Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting. Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting.
A reading from the Gospel according to Matthew. From that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, God forbid it, Lord, this must never happen to you. But he turned and said to Peter, Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. Then Jesus told his disciples, If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life? For the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everyone for what he has done. Truly, I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Here ends the reading.
Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting. Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting. Jesus, your Spirit in us is a wellspring of life everlasting.
Blessed are you who hide not your face from human misery. Blessed are you to whom the cries of the oppressed come. Blessed are you, the deliverer in every generation. If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. I feel like I've been conditioned to hear this verse like a metaphor for personal spirituality, to deny my consumerist impulses or my ego and to bear with my own suffering as part of a Christian life. And such an understanding probably holds some truth and some value. But for early Christian history, this command to self-denial and taking up the cross was understood quite literally. Martyrs who followed in the way of Jesus were faithful witnesses, and they were first witnesses. That's the literal meaning of the word martyr, who gave life and then their lives to a persecuted church. And lest we wrongly glorify it, I think martyrdom was less a function of personal decision and more a fate to which members of a marked group were consigned. Martyrdom. Like Peter in today's gospel, most of us would be tempted to protect ourselves and our loved ones from the worst suffering. And like Moses, we might say, "Who am I that you should send me?" Now, I want to be clear that I'm not really suggesting that anyone should go out looking for painful circumstances or that there is anything about suffering that is in and of itself holy. But Moses didn't really have to go looking for suffering. He had to claim a personal stake in the oppression and captivity that was around him. For what would it profit Moses if he gained the whole house of Pharaoh and forfeit his life, his destiny, and his people? Like Moses, we are traversing a wilderness where many are marked by their membership in a group, marked by race or national origin or gender identity. And they have become, in many ways, public witnesses, martyrs, to the injustice of a nation that, as the Reverend Anna Marie Hose pointed out last week, looks a great deal like Egypt. That captivity, that not so new slavery is here. In the 2.3 million people who are incarcerated in the United States, of whom a quarter haven't been convicted or sentenced. An additional 70,000 people who have been placed in unlawful immigration detention since the onset of COVID-19, and the 103 million adults whose well-being and homes have at some point been turned upside down by a family member, an immediate family member who has been incarcerated. Moses was raised as a prince in a king's home and at more than an arm's distance from his kinfolk's slave labor. He was contentedly going about his day with a flock of sheep and goats when God appeared in a most unavoidable way. But Moses chose to go back to the seat of power, and he chose it for the cause of liberation. He put his assets, his credibility, and his identity on the line. These were not a stumbling block to him. We who have the choice, as Moses and Peter, and I would argue Jesus did, are being called to journey with God and witness to the very heart of human suffering, so that we can also join in their confession. Indeed, I know their sufferings. We can't know the millions of people who are captive or in some way enslaved in our country, but I want to charge each of us to choose to know, choose to develop or deepen a relationship with one. I'll share a few ways in chat that you could get to know a few people who are living in these circumstances, or perhaps deepen relationships with those you already know. And I'll also post them after the service. May our knowing and our choosing lead us through the wilderness to the holy ground of God's presence, to the I am who is forever, the deliverer in every generation.